Greetings, citizen. Welcome to the show, and thank you for listening. For more of the art of wargaming in your life, definitely check us out on Instagram and Facebook. If you'd like to support the show, we have a Patreon account where you can do just that for as little as $1 a month. What we can offer will expand as the show does. If you don't have extra funds but would still like to help us out, you can give us a like, share, or 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. Want to get in touch? Feel free to message us or hit up our email, artofwargamingpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to continuing the conversation with you because we know the world is vast, with many different ideas on tactics and strategy that can be applied to the games we enjoy.
You're listening to the Art of Wargaming on the Earworm Network.
Of Ebony and Wolf.
Welcome to the Art of Wargaming on the Earworm Network. I am Yaga Malark, and today we'll be talking about Ebony and Wolf. But before we get into that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, everything that's kind of going on. First off, just wanted to say that within the last week we had a pretty big uptake in our Redbubble sales. And that's pretty exciting. We're going to ignore the fact that my wife was the one buying up all these pillows so that we could have each of the seasons. But progress is progress. So, again, a lot of good stuff on there. If it could be someone else buying stuff, except for just my wife, that'd be great. Otherwise, we'll just buy everything, which is fine too. I had a game this last week against my friend TF. I know we've talked about him before. He's, been on the show. And we were going to do a little sortie, 500 points. He brought his Blood Angels, of course, and I brought my Admech. Now, my Admech is probably my strongest army, or at least it was back in 8th edition. I rarely lost games. I did very well at local tournaments with this particular army, placing second or third pretty frequently. So I was not afraid going into this. I had beaten his Blood Angels before, and I wasn't necessarily all that worried about it. But he had some new tricks up his sleeve. And it turned out really, really well for him. First off, he scored, I want to say 50 points, 5-0, and I scored 11. Yeah, I think 11 was the final count. And I might be being generous there. Like, he trounced me. Just trounced me. First off, he understood that it was an objective-based game. I kept trying to maneuver myself into a position to just be shooting at him, but I forgot that it was an objective-based game, that that's the way you're supposed to score your points. He did not. So from the very first round going in, he was making sure to grab objectives and hold them more than me, and for much longer. I had to kind of move as a bubble, as a lot of AdMech forces are designed to do. I was going with the old school Onager Dune Crawler like Rangers build that used to be very successful. And it's not bad now, but yeah. So I fired off some volleys. He had moved his suppressors into some pretty easy range, and I took them off the table first turn. And he started looking a little glum because they were a big unit. They cost a lot of points. But he kept with it. And he definitely, still sunk his claws into it, gave it his best effort, and he just ended up owning me. In particular, his captain, which was set up just about the same way that, remember when I was talking about that game where my captain stabbed the Carnifex in the face, Burning Blade and Sword of the Imperium? Yeah, he had the same combo going on with a 4-up Invalid too, so it was rough. He stayed alive until the very end. And that's basically what he had to do. He already racked up the points. He was continuing to rack up the points. And really all he had to do was stay on the board, which I was trying my absolute darndest to make him not do. But I was cornered up. As is the way with an AdMech bubble like that, I was cornered up, had my little phalanx of Rangers around my Onagers that were doing work. And I was pretty comfortable in my corner. My plan was just to blast him off the board. But he had another thing coming for me. There's an orbital bombardment stratagem that the Adeptus Astartes have access to. And he placed it right on the objective that I was guarding. Now, based on the rules for that thing, it was going to hit my army in a way that I really couldn't afford. Especially clumped together like they were. So I had to maneuver out of my corner so that just one of my units, one of my onagers, took some damage. Because I'm rolling with a custom Mechanicum chapter, the Data Horde with the vehicle buff. Yeah, because I dig vehicles. So yeah, I knew that it was going to be ticking back some health, and so I was willing to let that happen. However, that maneuver, that push that he gave me out of the corner, was just enough to open up space for his sanguinary guard. And he popped him up in the air and dropped him right into the spot that I had to move out of. Charged, first turn, easily. Got inside my range, started getting up in that dune crawler's face. It's cool that they can still fire in melee combat. Not overly reliable, but yeah, I was doing some work. And then he just managed to close. It was this slow grind. My rangers all got taken out by various bolter fire. His captain came up and started doing work. And I mean, once my Skitari Marshal was off the board, that was basically game over for me. And I ended up having to tap out halfway through the last round because I knew, I was looking at the board and I was like, there is no way, 0 chances for me to win this game. I cannot rack up the points that I need, and I cannot eliminate his units. So yeah, I conceded the game. It was very well fought. The tactic that he used, the orbital bombardment to make me scooch out of my safe place and then dropping his dudes right into that spot, brilliant. Fantastic little plan. I absolutely loved it. And so I just want to praise him a little bit more and say that was very well done. And I'm back in the lab and I'm working on a response. So that was fun. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, I just wanted to take a moment to wish y'all well. I am aware that half of the world is on fire and the other half is underwater. Many of us are struggling with various economic situations, political situations that, in conjunction with a plague, make life difficult at times. And if you're not experiencing any of this, then I envy you, because it is a difficult time. So I just wanted to reach out to you and say that I wish you well. I hope your family's okay. I hope that you are okay, that your loved ones are okay. I just want us all to make it through this so we can game together. I would love to face off against y'all on a Warhammer table or a Belegarth field. It would be pretty sweet. But we got to get through this first. So, looking forward to seeing you. But I think it's time that we launch into our first section, where we're talking about the realm of Ebonhold. Joining me on this episode to talk about the realm of Ebonhold is a good friend of mine, Theon. Theon, how are you doing?
Doing great. How are you doing, Malark?
I'm doing okay. I can't complain. There's smoke here, but there's smoke all over the west, so it doesn't seem like a complainable offense. But we're not here to talk about the smoke today. We're here to talk about a little bit of your experience and a little bit of Ebonhold. So why don't you let the listeners know what your wargaming experience is?
So I have been a fighter in Belegarth Medieval Combat Society for the last 16 years now. I started in junior high, and honestly, it is the thing that kept me out of trouble as a kid. Every person from my generation of family, cousins, nieces, nephews, have all been on the front page of the paper. Mine is the only one that wasn't a mugshot. So, enjoyable thing of being able to be a nerd and be on the front cover of the paper.
Sure, and probably a little bit better publicity, too.
Absolutely. I have been a war council rep for Ebonhold for the last 6 years. I've been here for the ups and downs of our realm. We've had a lot of drama. Basically, we've had a lot of peaks and valleys of membership turnout, and I'm happy to say that we're actually on a track to be in a great place coming back post-COVID, which I know is going to be hard for a lot of realms to do.
Yeah, I mean, even here we've got little little tricks to keep everybody together and to kind of keep the realm alive. But it's been a struggle for sure.
And not gonna lie, Stygia has been a good blueprint to follow for us. I'm really glad to have you guys as a sister realm.
Well, while we appreciate that, a vote of confidence, I have to say, as the VP of Stygia right now, that it's entirely a hybrid system. I've been looking around the country at the way that other realms have been doing it and being like, okay, that works, that works, that works, and just kind of compiling it into something that seems to be doing just fine.
That's something I've noticed too a lot recently, is outreach has been handled a whole lot better in the last year than it has in years before, because instead of talking at events or talking at practices and getting those microdoses of conversation that we need to progress the sport, we're getting big, long conversations and actual time to think about what we're saying and why we're saying it online versus just rambling in person.
True, right. And I mean, like you say, it's made the communication, there's a necessity to it. I think before it wasn't necessarily pressing on people because, it was like, oh, okay, that's an option, but we're going to see each other at events and practice, and it's not a necessity. But now it's, if you're not using it that way, you're not keeping in touch. So, yeah, it's a good thing in my opinion, but it's definitely been an adaptation.
Absolutely.
So Theon, speaking of Ebonhold, where is it located so that people can kind of look on a map and know where we're talking about?
So we are in the smack dab of the Highlands of Chaos. We are in Idaho Falls, Idaho. We have practices every Wednesday at 5 o'clock at Tophus Park and every Saturday at 5 o'clock at Tophus Park. But we do actually have a new schedule where we are alternating practices with a new Rexburg realm that has popped up. And they are actually rivaling our numbers, which is surprising to see for a brand new realm.
Hey, but that's definitely a good thing to have a friendly rival nearby.
Absolutely.
So, when was Ebonhold founded? How old is this realm we're talking about?
From what I've been able to see, the formal foundation of Ebonhold started in the early 90s.
Right on. And to give a little bit of background, there's not been a solid historian. You don't have like a notes or anything like that for Ebonhold. This is kind of almost a little bit like being a historian, kind of reaching into the different sources you have and compiling the best idea that you can.
Yeah, it's actually been quite the adventure in the last week to figure out who was the big lead-in from when I came into Ebonhold. I actually started in a now defunct realm that was in Rigby, and we had gone through about 5 or 6 name changes trying to figure out our identity, and then we just figured, hey, make the 15-minute trek down to Idaho Falls and become a part of that realm, because why separate 2 smaller numbers when we're running practices on the same day and we could actually have giant fights?
True, and like you said, it's not that big of a drive to get there. When I was coming in from Murfreesboro, and Christiana is like it's like a suburb of a suburb of a suburb of Nashville, and I'd link up with a buddy of mine, and we'd drive in. It usually took about 45 minutes to get there, but Dur de Marion was a huge realm, so it was one of those things you got there, and it was basically like an event. Every practice was like an event. It was really cool. But 15 minutes, that's quite reasonable.
Absolutely. For a bunch of kids with bikes in high school, it seems like a whole different story, but as soon as one of us got a van, it was pretty much, hey, we're all packing into this van, 8 people, and strapping all the gear to the roof, and we'll be at practice.
I love the fact that you're talking about a van, because there are 2 very different perspectives of vans. Like in regular society, it's like a soccer parent car. It's it's one of those things that's kind of, that's kind of boring, kind of tapioca in terms of cars. But for somebody who goes to events or somebody who goes to tournaments with a large army, a van is a godsend. Like, that's a chariot from heaven right there.
The worst smelling chariot ever, but a sweet smell nonetheless.
Well, you can't always get the full package, but the transport is what matters. It's only 15 minutes, right?
Right.
So you bring up an excellent point when we're talking about trying to figure out the past. I feel like when most people found a realm, our realm included, it's hard to kind of put things together because nobody really starts with a historiographer. There's not anybody there like from the beginning being like, okay, this is what's happening, these are the major transitions. Most people are just like, we'll remember. But the next generation won't. And the generation after that won't. And so this seems to be a fairly common problem outside of Numenor. Numenor has this extensive history that their to-be knights have to like memorize and stuff. They are really on it. But most of the rest of us, it's a bit hazy.
Well, and that's one of the things I've actually wanted to kind of push myself to do as a squire of Numenor Knights did have that deep history of their realm, and it would be nice to have a new person come to practice who really isn't into the fighting and really more into the LARP aspect of our sport, because there really is a deep LARP aspect of our sport that I feel goes unappreciated a lot. There is truly have been knights of our realm who have lost teeth in a joke accident collision that have become a fabled story in our realm of when Sir Cedric lost a tooth and how that gave our land power.
Well, that's pretty cool. We have a little bit of mythology like that, but no, you can't really top most stories about Cedric, Hail the Emperor. Yeah, that's funny. I like that. In fact, I'm just sitting here picturing the story and trying to fill in the blanks. Why don't you tell the story so I can actually laugh at the real thing?
So, the story goes from perspective of I'll tell it how I would have told it if I was a goblin.
Perfect.
There was a day which the battles in the Black Tundra were harsh and the land was heated, and many people did nothing but pray for rain for a long time. The God Emperor Cedric, steeding into battle in full armor, pulling off of his helmet due to the heat, clashed with an opponent, and as the clash happened, the battle around him stopped as everybody saw a shining piece fly into the air. People threw their weapons to the ground and started searching through the grass to try to find this piece of the Emperor that no one would be known, it would never be seen again. So, no one found it. And from there, it rained, and rained, and rained. And from that point, we accepted that a piece of the Emperor would bless our battlefield forever.
So what I'm hearing is that we need to empty Cedric's mouth of teeth and ship them all over the western United States.
The plan has been enacted, and the plan has failed multiple times.
Well, that makes sense. He's the God Emperor, so it's hard to outfox the fox himself.
It's like Spider-Man. Everybody gets one.
Cedric, being one of the many people, I'm sure, in the realm, how many people are in the realm of Ebonhold? And I'm including non-coms in this, too.
Currently, I'd say active, we're pushing about 20 to 25 members that are showing up right now. Active members, including retired knights and anyone who we would qualify from our realm page. We've easily pushed over 100 fighters of people who have come in and stopped fighting, or people who have moved to colleges or other towns. It's been, like I said, peaks and valleys, and that'll make a little more sense is when we get into the long-running history of Ebonhold. There were some lean times, and then there were some not-so-lean times.
Well, that bust-boom cycle is fairly common for most realms, and I mean, it doesn't help that our primary recruiting demographic for most of us is high schools and college, because those folks are almost guaranteed to be moving on in life. And I mean, if they move on and they establish a new realm, awesome. But a lot of them go and get busy jobs and aren't able to be around anymore. So it's that retaining of people. I definitely feel that we have a similar issue here.
That's the weird cycle that I've actually seen happen. Is most of the people that I have seen that were the high school kids when I got into it are now the realm leaders and the people who have stuck around.
Sure. And I mean, I've also, like, in that same point, the second generation, they're scary. Like, they're out in Dur Marion that has, like, this super long storied history. They have, like, second and third generation fighters who come from families of fighters who have been raised with a sword in their hand, and they have no fear on the battlefield.
And we're getting actually a couple of knights and their knights' families are having second generation fighters come out, and it is absolutely wild to see of kids who don't need basic stick swinging training because they've been doing drills like that their whole lives, whether they know it or not.
Sure. Yeah, they definitely have a leg up on the rest of us. I had to definitely bust my tail trying to get any sort of good at this because I wasn't raised in a sword culture. I mean, I picked up a stick and swung it at my brother and cousin on occasion, but with no sort of real form. Did a little bit of fencing, but that's not nearly the same as actual combat on a field.
Absolutely. And see, that's one of the things is I grew up in a football, wrestling, boxing family. So the idea of combat sports has always been a deep interest of mine. That's why when I saw the combat sport aspect rolled in the D&D flavoring of Belegarth, I was sold.
I definitely feel that. My first time coming out, I was like, I might like this, and here we are. I forget how many years later now, and so it's a fantastic community, and it's definitely shaped a whole lot of my life too. But yeah, so obviously we have Cedric there, right? We have you, but who are some other prominent members of the realm?
So at the moment, I will actually go through and name the current council that we have. Other than myself, we have Khan, the Conable. He is a member of Horde. Currently, as I know, the only human member of Horde. He is our other War Council rep. We have Morholt, who is a prominent member of our realm. He is one of the people who, if you ever need spare weapons, he'll be there. He is actually a former king of our realm. We have Rumpelstiltskin. He is a member of Horde. He has been our voluntold king for the last little while.
I love Rumpel.
Rumpel is such a good dude. Like, I lived with Rumpel for about 4 years, actually, when he was starting the sport. And good God, like you said, the second generation fighters, if all new fighters could sponge this sport like Rumpel did, it would be scary. We'd have a field full of shies.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's the goal, right?
And that's the big thing is, Shy has been a member of that Rexburg realm. That's where I started, is fighting with Shy and fighting with Zane and fighting with Sir Leaf. Those guys were the absolute ass-kicking. So I never got the moment where I felt like Goku. I was always the guy that's like, I feel like Krillin, and that's awesome, because I'm gonna die.
No, and I mean, talk about folks to learn from. I mean, the learning curve might be steep with folks like Shy around, but in the same token, if you stick around and ride that curve, you can get pretty good.
And that's kind of the idea of Ebonhold, is we like to hit hard on the field, and off the field we try to be the nicest set of people that anyone will meet. We try to leave a bad taste on your mouth on the field and help the niceness just be the cool drink after.
No, I really dig all that. For those of our listeners who may not know who Shy is, I'm fairly certain we've brought him up before, but he is one of the absolute powerhouses of the West. Pretty much, like, I don't know many people that would argue with the fact that he's the best or among the best fighters here. He routinely wins tournaments. He's part of a very elite group of fighters. The same one as TF, the EBF, and yeah, but he couldn't be a nicer guy. Couldn't be a nicer guy. Willing to work with people off field, like sit there and chat with you, like just an absolutely sweet dude who will destroy you on the field.
He is the closest thing to Goku I have ever met in real life. He will teleport behind you, beat the absolute piss out of you, and then give you a senzu bean, a pat on the back, and like, okay, now let me show you how I did that.
Which is awesome. Like, there's a lot of people who will just beat you and then walk off and not really teach you anything at all, but he takes the time. He takes the time, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I have a couple of great stories about Shy. Actually, one of them, if you want to hear an old story from Rigby Rexburg sword fighting my Ebonhold days, I have one.
Oh, let's do it, yeah.
So, we used to meet up after Rigby practices and all meet up at our buddy's trailer because he lived about a couple blocks away from our practice area. We'd do a game we called Hunters versus Seekers. My buddy had about an acre of land, and we would throw glow sticks all over his backyard and play essentially hide and seek. You had about a 10-person squad of hunters and a 5-person squad of people who were hiding in the bushes or anywhere that would take opportunity attacks up along a patrol route and try to eliminate the squad before they got to the end of the patrol. So the worst one is I'm about 3 people left in this squad of patrol. We're getting to the end of our patrol, and Zane, one of the fighters from Rigby, was under a porch swinging, drawing aggro from everybody that was on the patrol. So by the time I get up to the patrol, my first thought is, well, we've killed everybody else on the assassin team except for Zane and Shy. Where the hell is Shy? And looking up at the most anime moment, Shy is jumping off of a trailer with a red sword, and this is old brick sword, not the nice, fantastic, what I would qualify lighter reds that we have now. I just get crumpled to the ground by this brick of a pillow. It wasn't even a strike, more of just like, hey, I'm just going to let this red fall on you so we both don't die. And he took off from there, and it was just, it's just one of those cool moments in life that is like, this is as close as I'll ever get to being in an anime. And unfortunately, I'm on the wrong side of it.
He's definitely the protagonist, and there are very, very few people that I've seen come in and actually make any sort of anime style work. There's a whole lot of people that try downsticking when they first come in. There's a whole lot of people that try to run with their sword behind them, and we usually make fun of them for being goofy. Shy makes it work.
Absolutely. I have a couple of videos on my YouTube page of just him 360 spinning people for the last kill of the game. It's ridiculous.
Oh, that's beautiful. So are there any other prominent members we want to discuss before moving on?
We have Anubis. We have... I could honestly go through a list. Echo. Best bet would be going Sir Leaf. There are just so many, but I haven't seen a lot of them out recently. We've had a lot of new blood into the realm, which is really great to see. Our last practice we had, our new fighters actually outweighed our veterans 2-1.
Nice.
Yeah, it was, and we're seeing a lot of fresh kids coming out of school for the summer, not really knowing what they have to do. We're getting a lot of them equipped. Just the base interest of parents seeing kids play fantasy games and having us be the viable option that they see is just wonderful.
Sure. No, and it's a great experience. There's a whole lot to gain from it, even off the field. But it also helps to be close to a lot of different events, and your realm does put on a few of those. I've actually been to a couple.
Yeah, Frozen Warriors is something we run during the winter, and I think that's been one of our better ran events, just for the cost versus people who show up. Just having a once a month thing in the winter for people to fight, even pre-COVID, in Idaho has been a godsend. It's been fantastic, and I'd like to thank actually Cienfuegos of the Realm of Bethel for helping put it on, and any other members from the Realm of Bethel that I'm forgetting to shout out there. I'm sorry.
Oh, right on. And yeah, it takes many hands to run something like that. You also have Thaw Brawl there as well.
Yeah, Thaw Brawl has been one of the bigger events that we run. It's our main weekend event we run in April. We've skipped it last year, unfortunately, with COVID. We were the first event to cancel, I'm pretty sure on the West for pandemic-wise, but it was just a real kick in the knackers.
Sure.
It was a good... it was one of those times where you had everything set up for the event, and you were just waiting for the time to happen, and then it just cancels. Just sucked.
Yeah. I feel that like all of 2020, I had a plan to get out to a bunch of Belegarth events and go to a bunch of Warhammer tournaments and talk to folks and be able to kind of get out there and do interviews, live interviews at the places. And then there was a plague.
Actual plague. Like, oh man.
But yeah, so I mean, and those events are awesome. I've been to Thaw Brawl several times, and I've got very entertaining stories from each of them. But this is about you, Theon. So let's actually get into that nitty gritty. You had said that you guys have some pretty cool history going on. What is the history of Ebonhold, and are there any great tales of the past worth sharing?
So from what I have gathered, let me pull up my notes. The start of Ebonhold before I came into Ebonhold was Sir Necronos was king, made king by Sir Cedric. After that, we had a fighter who is no longer fighting named Jules, and this is one of the downhills of the peaks. After that, we actually, I will leave the names of the people out, but we had, it's what's referred to in Ebonhold now, because anybody who was realm leadership now was young, and this was stories. It was, we refer to it as the Dark Times. We had a king who actually embezzled from the realm, and honestly, at one point, it threatened to shut down the realm because a legal battle happened.
Well, sure.
And that was a whole lot of unfortunateness. And then Morholt actually took over kingdom from there, and that is one of the times where I actually came into Ebonhold over fighting in Rigby. After that, we went to a 7-person war council. That is kind of the system that we're going back to. The 2 war council reps, a treasurer, and 4 speaker of the peoples. After that, we had Sir Leaf took over as king of the realm, and he actually did a fantastic job. Between him and Morholt, those 2 really, and their councils that they had together, put in the work to revitalize Ebonhold, to actually make it what it is today. The ability to run Thaw Brawl and still come out in the black and not be threatening to go red, and to turn a profit that we know can be safe and help revitalize the realm and give us things that we need to as insurance and acting members who are actually really vested and interested in the rules of the sport, to getting loaner weapons from the realm. Those 2 were really instrumental in getting us back to a point where we needed to be. And then comes the other big swing of the sword, where we went to what I like to call an anarchy system. It was basically just a bunch of voices yelling into a blender that was sorted out by 2 war council reps, which I was one of those war council reps at the time, and it was a very, very weird period, because
I do not envy you that position.
Out of all the years I've been a war council rep, those were the worst, because it was taking votes that were not formal and trying to figure out how to apply those to what the people would want and what would be the best voting interest of the realm. And when you have a lot of outspoken members, like you do in Ebonhold, that have a bunch of different views, but can still get together and have a conversation that doesn't degrade into yelling and screaming about who's right, it's more about what is the best point for the realm. It worked, but it shouldn't have. It's like pouring moonshine into a diesel engine and driving 5 miles.
Oh, that's some redneck ingenuity there.
And that's pretty much what it felt like it was running off of. After the anarchy, Rumpelstiltskin became our voluntold king, and he has been our air quotes king for the last little bit of. We ran me is a solo war council rep because we had other people fill the positions that really, it wasn't they didn't vote because they weren't voting. It was, hey, Theon's experienced and he's been speaking for the realm for this long and it hasn't been an issue of contestment or anything. Let's keep him going and kind of follow his lead. But that's where I enjoy. We're moving back to the 7-person system again.
Sure.
Because with COVID votes and the recent massive bannings, I don't want to be the only person speaking for our realm. And I think it would be better, especially where we have a whole influx of new fighters coming in, showing them that there is more to this game than wacky bats, I'm dead. There is rule sets and events and planning and a whole logistics side to this that a lot of people don't see.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I've talked on the show previously about how power politics absolutely exist in any organization. You're going to find them in churches, in schools, in, nerd wacky bat clubs. Those are going to be everywhere.
Absolutely. And that's the whole thing that I wanted to do, is make it clear to my realm that I don't want to abuse the power that I have, because this game is supposed to be fun, safe, and entertaining. And if you take those triangle of things and pull one corner away, the whole game falls apart.
True, right. I mean, that's kind of the balancing act that a whole lot of different companies and organizations have to walk too. Games Workshop is under a little bit of fire right now because they're taking away one of those corners, and a lot of people are rather mad about it. So yeah, the fallout of any mistake can be really hard to rectify.
Absolutely. Even a small mistake dominoing could unstabilize an organization, and the fact that we have gotten through this last year as a medieval combat society and stayed together and haven't torn each other apart. There have been some big pieces of discourse, but we're still here. People are still excited about Chaos Wars that still has no plan yet. People are still excited about Battle for the Ring that has no plan yet. I'm still planning for Thalbrawl, and my first thought is, this is going to be canceled. But the plan was great.
That's true. And there's nothing wrong with having it, even if it goes by the wayside. It's better to have a plan and not need it than to not have a plan and definitely need one.
Absolutely.
So, kind of going back to that history of the realm, after these shifts of kind of the way that it was run to what sounds almost like a parliamentary monarchy at the moment. There's other stuff that was happening throughout that. There was the Cedric event, and of course all of the shy stuff. Any other fantastic stories from that period of time? Pre-COVID.
Couple Thalbrawl stories. It just really depends on what you would like to hear. Do you want to hear something more serious? Do you want to hear something a little more lighthearted? What, on your opinion, what would you like to hear about Ebonhold?
If you've got something that might give us some chuckles, I think we could all use some chuckles in this year of 2021.
Okay, so when I was playing a goblin in Horde, we used to do a ceremony at Thalbrawl, which was we would cage a bear in wicker and essentially Nicolas Cage Wicker Man, a stuffed animal, every year. How that started was the first night of Thaw Brawl, it had rained all day, and this was one of my first Thaw Brawls. So, of course, we are trying to stoke a fire with as much wind block as we can and throw as much logs on this fire to keep this fire going and find anything dry to keep it going. Unfortunately, somebody had a breakup before the event, the day before the event, and had all of his things that he took from his girlfriend's house. So, a good dude bro moment from another friend, one of our members of our camp, starts pulling gifts that his girlfriend had given him and throwing them in the fire to feed the fire. So, of course, sappy love notes were first, and then pictures, and he was cool with this at a point, but then we got to the giant 4-foot stuffed animal bear.
Good lord.
Yeah, we should probably not throw this in the fire, but also we would like to be warm. So the terrifying thing is, as soon as this bear hit the fire, the rain stopped.
Of course.
Yeah, it was terrifying. It was like, okay, we're just going to take this moment and agree with it and be fine. So the next 2 or 3 years, it became a ha-ha, hee-hee joke of any time it rained at Thaw Brawl of who forgot the bear, who forgot the bear, who forgot the bear. Well, no one forgot the bear at those times because that was light rain. The one actual year that I ran the event and forgot the bear, I was standing heralding in Thaw Brawl. If anyone's ever been to Thaw Brawl, we run it at a site called Kelly's Island. So it's a big road leading in, and it loops all the way around like a lasso, and then connects back to the main road to lead out. So, I'm standing on the field heralding the field, watching a dust devil tear down the road, and my first thought is, did I bring the bear? Did anyone bring the bear? So I watched this dust devil tearing down the road. It's following the road, not hitting any dirt or anything. And my first thought is, yep, that's going right towards my camp. I know exactly where that's heading. Well, about 10 or 15 minutes later, my wife comes up and tags out as like, hey, can you get somebody to take over? One of our tents is in the tree. And I was like, oh, okay. Haha, thinking it's going to be a little 5-10 foot tree. She just needs a hand. No, we're sitting there trying with a weight and a lasso, trying to pull this tent down out of a tree. It's about 20 feet in the air, and all I can think of was never forgetting the bear again.
What is it with y'all down there in Ebonhold and having this strange pact with the weather gods? I really need to know what's going on with your witchcraft or whatever you guys are doing.
So that goes back to Zane. Zane was, for a long time, he was our monster representative for Horde before I got barreled into Horde. He basically cracked jokes all the time of any time it rained or any time the weather was going bad, he would drop his stuff on the field and just start cursing the Storm Lord Gorlock, which Gorlock is a very well-known member of our community, not just a well-known member of Horde. Fantastic person. Not at all vengeful at all, but in Ebonhold he is, no, you say the word Gorlock and it's like, what have you done with the weather? And that's pretty much become like, we have people who have no clue that Gorlock is a real person, and it's going to be a fantastic time when the moment comes up of somebody's randomly from our realm cursing Gorlock at an event, and his response, you rang? Like, I'm here.
You do realize that this is how, like, legends and religions begin. There's, like, a person who actually did something kind of cool, or there was a joke or something that started, and then generations later, they're still practicing it, but they don't really know why, and they come up with, like, a structured way to practice it, and eventually you have a Church of Gorlock.
Yeah, I was about to say, the Jesus gave wine and bread, and now he's known, and Gorlock gave rain and anger, and he's known really well in Ebonhold.
You know, we need a god for anything. That's just the way it is.
Minor deities need respect too.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure if I'd qualify Gorlock as a minor deity, but that's a conversation for another time. So in talking about your realm, apart from the amazing weather magic that you guys seem to have mastered down there, what is the culture?
It is the real rough question. Everybody in Ebonhold plays really close to the vest. Of when we are out talking at practice, it is sport driven. Personal politics really don't come into the realm because we do have a very wide range of people on the political scale. We have
Sure.
a lot of people on the right, we do have a lot of people on the left, we do have a lot of people who lean in the middle, and that has been one of the issues of the flexes up and down, and which has led us to the point, as I said earlier, of us being able to have a civil conversation without it breaking down into yelling. That has kind of gone from sword fighting politics and turned into real life skills, which is always great to see nerds handle.
Absolutely, yeah. And that sounds almost like a microcosm of society as a whole. You know, you got people on the right, you got people on the left, you got a silent majority kind of hanging out in the middle. And the trick to society, or the trick to like a realm, is to help all of those people get along.
Communication is key.
Absolutely. And those common things, the common ground that everybody has, the ability to communicate in ways that aren't related to that and participate in activities that aren't related to it, that's really positive too.
Absolutely. It's moments that can bring people together rather than pull them apart.
Sure. What kind of units are present in the realm?
Currently, we have, I believe, Shy is the only EBF. I am currently a conscript under Gelth. We have a local house that is the Fist of Fury, and that has kind of been we have a ragtag group of mercenaries or people who don't know what they want to do unit-wise. Let's give them someone to fight with, and some unit members or other people that have been in the realm that can guide them to better things.
Sure.
Morholt actually has been reviving a unit that fell along the wayside due to some drama, the Reapers. He has actually pulled himself as one of the original members. Anubis, former Horde, has actually taken the Sash back up. I am an honorary member of that, just to help them with the rebuilding process. But currently, they're pulling some new fighters and some fighters who have been off the field for a couple of years, coming back into it strong and looking to get new gear and new garb. And it's been really weird, because we usually had a big diverse amount of unit members, and now we are outweighed unitless members to people who have units. Unit battles on our field is funny because it's 15 to 16 mercenaries versus, hey, I'm over here by myself.
Well, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I find that a lot of folks, when they come in, join units too hastily without necessarily making a careful consideration of, you know, personal styles or you know, experience, or the ability to connect with folks. And so I actually kind of like that. I like the fact that y'all have a fairly wide group of people who haven't declared yet, because that means they're actually going to be able to put some thought into it.
Yeah, Echo has a mercenary unit, the Black Rose Order, which is fantastic because it's not necessarily a feeder system, but I feel like it is a good foundation for newer fighters and fighters who really want to get the idea of units and unit politics. And it's good with the idea of not everybody can be in a unit, not everybody will make it into a certain unit, and giving the idea of, yes, personal politics will affect your unit more than you as a solo fighter on the field.
Sure. And that absolutely makes sense. Everybody rises and falls, again, on those little politics. Whether you're part of a Belegarth realm or whether you're part of a gaming guild, we all have to suffer and deal with these things, navigate them, as it were. But Theon, we're getting to being out of time here. We definitely have gotten all the way up to the mark, and I have not gotten through all of my questions, which is okay. You had a lot of good stuff to say, and I was very glad to have heard it. So thank you so much for being on the show.
No problem. I appreciate you reaching out and having the time to actually talk to another wargaming enthusiast.
Well, that's what we're all about here. So again, thank you. And now we're going to go into our next interview where we talk to the founding members of Vorshen. So here for the second part of our show, I have a real treat for you guys. We have Arshenk and Tandar. These are two of my friends from out east. I met them when I was living in Durdamarion for that year, and they have never ceased to impress me. We're going to be talking about Vorshen today, but to give you kind of an idea of these two, I don't normally fear people with a red. I kind of know the technique and know the timing. Tandar, however, is one of those folks that if he's using a red, I will take notice and typically stay out of range if I can, just kind of stay out of it. And Arshenk is probably the only person I know to win a tournament her first year in the sport. Arshenk, Tandar, it is an honor to have you all on the show.
Hi, Malark. It's nice to see you again.
Hey, Malark. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad you guys are here too, and I'm also really glad to see you again. Hopefully this whole plague thing clears up and I'll be able to see you shortly in the person, not just over the interwebs. So, tell the folks a little bit about your wargaming experience.
Let's see. I've been in Belegarth for 7 years now, since 2014. I've played several combat RPGs, but nothing really on the level of like Call of Duty or anything. I'm not very good at the first-person shooters.
Hi, I'm Tandar. I started just after Arshenk, so it's been about 7 years for me as well. I used to play a lot of Call of Duty back in like college, and like more League of Legends recently. Bringing that up, we actually made League of Legends into Belegarth.
Yep, we were able to hybridize the games by putting a League of Legends Summoner's Rift battle into action and actually put it onto the Belegarth field, roped off the 3 lanes, and we made foam torches where I actually sewed on red and yellow flames onto the tops of these things, and so people could actually hold torches and jungle through the negative areas. People had a lot of fun with that, but they weren't very good at remembering to keep their hands on the torches when jungling, so we got to call a lot of people out and kill them in the negative space.
Guys, that right there sounds like a fantastic idea, and I have to tell you, honestly, that I am going to shamelessly steal it. I'm going to.
Do it.
Please do. It needs to go further than it has.
No, that's really cool. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. I never really played League of Legends or Dota, but I've always had roommates or friends that have played it. And I don't know why that didn't occur to me. Yeah, genius.
We've seen a lot of League of Legends versions on the Belegarth field, but no one had incorporated jungling yet, so that was a big treat that people really liked.
Yeah, no, and that makes it truer to the game as well, just kind of incorporating that idea. Yeah, I dig that. So, today we're going to be speaking about Vorshen, the unit that you all founded. Let's talk a little bit about that. When was it founded? Where was it founded? And kind of where are you guys located now?
Vorshen was founded at Equinox of 2014, so that would have been September. That's going to be 7 years coming up. Durdamarion hosts 2 weekend events per year, Beltane and Equinox. When I joined Durdamarion, and my first day in Belegarth in general was at the Durdamarion home opener that same year. So that was between April and September, so only 5 months before we founded our unit. and now we'll be celebrating our 7th year together.
That is incredibly impressive to me. I know a lot of folks that found a unit within their first year, and it's usually based on some kind of theme, and it's fun, and it's sort of their friends, but it peters out eventually because, maybe the leadership isn't strong enough, maybe people get poached by other groups. So I'm very impressed that Vorshen is still around.
It's been really nice. We have essentially a family that we've grown together. The unit jokes that I have 4 grandkids now because we keep having families.
Hey, that's not a bad thing. Again, a sense of community, a sense of belonging, I know is part of the draw to what we do. And so having that be cultivated within y'all's unit, I'm sure it helps even more.
One of the things that really helps, honestly, we have just a Facebook Messenger group, and it's uncensored. Anyone can like share and like get help in there and talk. Because we've had people leave and go off to the military or move out of town, but while they're not on the fighting field with us, they are still involved with what we're doing, and on a daily basis keep in touch.
And during normal years, I'm sure that's good even then. But throughout this time of COVID, I'm sure that's just helped reinforce the cohesiveness of the unit.
It really has, yeah. It's been really nice because we couldn't always see each other, especially before the vaccines were accessible to everyone. So being able to still communicate and have that sense of community long distance was really nice.
Even if it's like dumb memes or something, you're still connected.
Hmm.
Yeah, sure. Just something to remain connected and have that sense of camaraderie. And yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that you were able to keep that up during this trying time. So Vorshen, at least if I recall correctly, was based out of Durdemarion when it first started. And if I recall, that's when I became an honorary member.
Hmm.
Now, has it spread beyond Durdemarion at this point?
A little bit. We do have several honorary members in different states, including Illinois and New York. Our main focus right now is centered in Nashville, Tennessee at Durdemarion. But when people have picked up, we did have one full unit member move to Texas, and he spread Vorshen there, at least by name, and then he moved back here.
Well, that's cool though, because a lot of folks, they have to have a wider recruiting base. But I mean, Durdemarion has so many people there that it's not hard to recruit enough to have an actual functioning unit.
Durdemarion is very large, and I didn't always understand that until I went to other practices and events. But our average practice at Durdemarion pre-COVID was 100 people.
Yeah, see, that's a large, like if we got that for a Montana event, we would be like high-fiving each other, like an event, but you guys have it for practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know, I miss it. Every weekend was an event when I was there, and it was just a delight.
And we recently held opener for people who were vaccinated, and we had a pretty good showing, even though it was a super rainy day.
It was.
Like, besides that time that us two, Malark and Skeletor, fought in, like, freezing rain, like, these people were dedicated.
To be young and dumb.
Right? I think I got pneumonia. If we're talking about the session I'm thinking about, I think I got pneumonia from that.
You did,
You
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I caught a cold.
I got bronchitis.
You got bronchitis. You got a pneumonia. We did very dumb things.
But again, we were young enough to bounce back, and that was nice. Now, I think the reason that I probably got it worse than y'all is you're used to the wet. You're in Tennessee, so like wet is just sort of the state motto, I suppose. Whereas here, I live in a desert. It's an alpine desert. It's on fire right now. You guys are underwater. So yeah, when I went there and was exposed to that cold and wet, yeah. So with a realm of that size, with that large of a recruiting pool, how many people, fighters and non-coms, are in Vorshen?
In Vorshen itself, if we don't include retired members, we're in the 20s. Solid 20s. I'd have to do a head count, but we've kept really good numbers for both combatants and non-combatants. And right now we're pledging 3 people?
I think so.
3 people who have not been able to take their trial, thank you, COVID.
Yay.
Yeah, no, they've been pledging for a while. Like, it is time.
Yes, they're ready.
Yeah, we're all chomping at the bit, but like to have that right there and just waiting for a certain time, that's got to be torture. So when your unit attends an event, on average, how many folks are able to make it?
It really depends. If we have a Tennessee specific event, we'll average probably 10 people from the unit, and we'll have a nice camp set up if we have one of our events that we're hosting. If it's Beltane or Equinox, we'll have at the very least 10 people in our camp area.
Usually more than that, really. Like, a lot of people come out for Beltane and Equinox.
Mhm.
It's when you get to, like, Ockfest that will wind up between, like, 5 and 10.
Yeah, out of state gets harder for people.
For sure. And for those of you who may not know, Ockfest takes place in Illinois.
Correct.
I've been there. I swear I've been there, but like, I don't have notes about it, so I don't remember.
It's near Normal, Illinois. I know that.
Gotcha.
In Carbondale, isn't it?
It's Illinois. We know it's Illinois. So is there a particular event that's important, like most important to you? I know there's a lot of units that say, if you make it to one event this year, make it to this one because it's kind of the big one for our unit. Is there one that's like that for y'all?
Probably EQ, since that was our founding event. We'll celebrate. We have ceremonies. I'll host ceremonies on Thursday night, and then we'll have those who have passed their trials will get a pledging ceremony Friday night, and then we'll vote in new pledge members on Saturday night, and we'll go and pass the pledge flags to those people and offer them those flags on Saturday nights. But Equinox is really when we celebrate being together, celebrate our foundings, and then we'll stay up as long as we possibly can and end up celebrating and singing Disney karaoke till about 3 a.m. around the campfire.
That is outstanding. I got to make it to an EQ so I can come hang out with you guys. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, please do. That would be so awesome.
I know it's the smaller of the two events, but it is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Beltane's always weird because it takes place on my birthday. And so, like, I'm always hesitant to tell anybody that because I'm like, the point of all this is the event. But, like, on the other hand, I'm like, it's my birthday, yo. Like...
But if you tell people at the event that it's your birthday, you get extra cake. Like, there are a lot of extra treats.
Also get a bee sting. That's what happened. The Beltane that I was there. Oh yeah, I'm allergic to bees too, but I was there for the Beltane and I got stung on my thigh. Yeah, I mean I just ate a bunch of Benadryl and then after a couple hours realized that I was okay. Went to bed in my cabin and all Angel had heard. Angel is the realm leader for Durdamarian. Real cool person, runs just about everything in the world. And she's a medic as well. And so she had heard that I had gotten stung and I was allergic and I went to lay down. She didn't hear about the Benadryl or the time period that had been, And so I wake up in my cabin, and I'm naked, by the way, to Angel standing over me with half the medical staff. And I'm like, hey, guys, can I help you? I mean,
Oh no.
it was nice to be checked on. I felt cared about, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, so I mean, I like Beltane, but I'm not going to tell anybody it's my birthday anymore because the bees find out.
Hey, all these years, I've never been attacked by bees there yet.
Don't jinx yourself, Jeebus.
It'll happen now.
Just don't tell them it's your birthday. That's the key I see. So besides yourselves, who I consider prominent members, absolutely, do you have any other like prominent members of your unit?
We have several people who've been with us for multiple years. We have Davlon, who was actually one of our friends from college, who was a groomsman at our wedding. He's very active in our unit.
And he's currently squiring.
Yes, he is.
to Sergicanta.
Right on.
He's a squire. Yep, he's a squire to Sergicanta. His girlfriend was my coworker. I brought her into the sport. She's been working on her activity Let's see, we also have, I mean, Aaron he was one of the people, he took our very first pledge trial. So he's been an active part of the development of Vorshen from the start. And his fiance is an active non-combatant in the sport and has helped us develop what we thought was a good balance between combatant and non-combatant on paper, turned out to not be as applicable in real life. So Aaron's fiance Oshai has been helping us figure out better balances for non-combatants and pledging for the full member process. Right now they're an honorary. Then their roommate Sonahar. Sunny has been an active member. You'd really like her spear work.
Yeah.
Like, she's very mobile and is a very strong spear fighter.
I always love those.
You brought up the trials.
The trials, yeah.
Aaron was the sort of like the beta test, and then what was it? We had Sunny and Arel's trial the same day. People were like,
oh, those two were the same day.
Yeah, those
Aaron was the first trial years before.
Sunny and Arel trialed later together, and people were just telling us how mean we are.
Mean? Why?
That wasn't the intent. So with our pledging, each person pledges for at least a season and an event, so we can see how they fight, how they work with us. Is it a good fit? Do they want to join at the end of it? Do we want them to join at the end of their trial? It's a test to see, like, is it more than just I want to join and I landed on you guys. So it's a way for us to test the waters to see if everyone enjoys everyone else's company, or if it's just not a good fit and we can cut ties before anything is too intense. But once someone earns their trial, the trial is customized to the person and what they need to work on most. So no trial has ever been the same. And Arel and Sunny trialed on the same day, and Arel's trial, the maximum is always they fight 20 people maximum, and we pick the people, and no one knows what the trial is except for us until the day of. Arel's trial was that he had to either kill his opponent or get past them to force his aggression. And everyone who wasn't fighting created a U behind him with their shields, and if he backed up enough that he touched their shield, he died.
Oh.
So he had to push forward. He didn't like us.
For Sunny, we made it so everyone chose one part of their body that was a self-destruct button. So whether it's like their right arm, their left leg, their back, and that was the only spot they could be hit to hurt, because she needed to focus on throwing more than 2 shots at that time.
Sure.
We invited some Angry Birds, and it was great.
We had a couple of triad members that we trust the most, who can adjust based on what is going on in the fight, but who are very strong fighters. And at the end of that, no one felt that Arel or Sunny had not earned their place in the unit.
Well, good. I mean, that's like these rites of passage. I feel like in society as a whole, we don't have a whole lot of rites of passage. You know, you graduate from high school, you get a little piece of paper and a pat on the back or some money. You know, you graduate from college, same diff, but like actual trials, again, like rites of passage that help us have worth, help us think well of ourselves. Our society is kind of lacking in that. But like in terms of like Vorshen and these smaller things, we can kind of get these initiations that foster that feeling.
That is the goal, to kind of get everyone on the same page and, you know, earn it, to want it, to earn it.
And they get very excited both for their trial and after passing to know what all they went through in order to accomplish their trials. And they brag about them, they compare their trials to others. It's very exciting for them.
Well, sure. Yeah, it is absolutely a point of pride and gives people something to work for. I feel the same about the Great Hunt, especially when I incorporate it into the high school. And these kids are able to go through and pass these trials and, you know, again, feel like they've accomplished something. They've gone through a rite of passage. So in terms of events, you were saying that EQ is a pretty important one to y'all. Do you guys sponsor any events, or do you have like a dedicated volunteer thing that you do at events? I know Tandar usually get roped into Feast because you make amazing food, but
I'm feast coordinator right now, so I have to make food.
Yep, we're both on the board for Dirtamarian. I have been the vice president of the realm for the past, this will be 2 years now.
2.5, I think, if you count the one you got roped in on.
Ad hoc vice president was before I was merchant coordinator.
Oh, okay.
So I went ad hoc vice president, merchant coordinator, vice president, vice president.
Okay.
One of the things that Vorshen prides itself on is volunteering. We give back to what gives us our vacation, our time away from computers and technology and the mundane. So every unit member donates one or 2 hours of their time at each event, either to clean up at the end of the event or to serve a feast or to run gambling night casino for a couple of hours, just to give the administrators like just those couple of hours to do something else, so we're not completely scrambled. But it gives back to the realm that gives us so much every single time, and people are very prideful of that too. We really like that one of the most prominent people you see volunteering at Beltane or Equinox has a Vorshen flag on them.
no, that's awesome. I echo that sentiment. I feel like events would go a lot smoother if everybody had that policy. If everybody just picked up a couple of shifts throughout the event and just helped out a little bit. If everybody's doing that, the event goes pretty smoothly.
There's also with that, we were working with Winter War a lot back before the plague. So if any Vorshen went to Winter War, we ended up doing a lot of weapons check as a realm too.
Yes, we were asked to do weapons check at Winter War, and we were not versed on the dagger here manual at arms until we were driving up to the event.
Oh, Lord.
Or down?
That was Dirtamarian as a whole too.
Yes, that was the realm of Dirtamarian doing that.
Okay. Well, right on. Yeah, like I said, that's a really good thing to cultivate within your policies, I suppose. So Vorshen, again, has been around for a while, and I imagine that there is some storied history there. Are there any great tales, anything like super entertaining that you want to tell about Vorshen?
We're very big on lore. Are you asking for a fictional story or for a non-fictional story?
No, I'm thinking like something on the field, like something really dramatic that happened. Like the stories would work too if you want to do some fiction. That works too. But yeah, glory. Was there any true moments of glory you would wish to share?
Two that I can think of. There was one during Beltane Warlords, and there was one last guy left on the enemy team, and he had just mowed down like 3 or 4 people, and Arshank was the last one alive to fight him, and she had her bow out there and a little tiny sidearm, and everyone had pretty well done the same move. Just run at the guy, get wrap shot. And she ran almost the same motion, and I had this, oh no, and just throws the bow back to block his wrap shot, and then throws her own, and she wins. The last person standing, and it was glorious. And then one that's not technically on the field, but it was a tournament, a tug-of-war tournament, and it was a whole Vorshen team with me, Tycho, Aaron,
Guts,
because I was the anchor just holding us back, and they were all pulling, and we took first at a little day event, and loved it.
That one was awesome, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And one of the things that I would like you to talk about, if you can, like I had mentioned, Arshank, you won a tournament your first year. I would love for you to talk about how did you manage to do that? Because I don't know of anybody else who did. And a little bit about the tournament itself, because it was very exciting to watch.
So that tournament was an archery tournament at Eastwind Under Siege.
Yep.
I believe, yes. Eastwind is a private property that has castle setups, camp areas in the woods. They have a village with a forge, and the last time I saw, they were building an actual feast hall. They just have very elaborate setups. It's an amazing place if you can go. But they had an archery tournament set up with two circles that were each 10 feet in diameter, separated by 10 feet, and each archer could not leave their circle. I was still new at that point, because if it was 2014, then it was still my first year.
You couldn't technically arch on the field of Dirtamarian yet because you hadn't passed all the tests.
Yes, so Dirtamarian has a very strict archery policy for safety, and for the number of people that we have, you have to shadow under someone from the Combat Archers Guild of Dirtamarian for at least 6 weeks until they say that you can safely shoot without supervision. The Combat Archers Guild was founded by our combat grandmaster Kern, and it had just started getting closer to the colder months, so I was not getting proper supervision, so I technically could not shoot on Dirtamarian's field without supervision, but that didn't count when you go to Eastwind. So when I went to this tournament, I was like, well, it's not like I'm not allowed to. I'm going to enter just to see if I can. And I ended up winning the archery tournament before I could shoot unsupervised at my home field.
Like I said, that's very impressive. Just in general, like that's, again, I've never heard of somebody winning a tournament their first year. It's just baffling to me. But I think one of the things you were telling me about that is you had spent the winter sort of just kind of practicing knocking. What you had said was you were sitting there like watching TV or watching a show and just practicing knocking without looking at it. And when I was watching you out there in the tournament, it was one fluid motion. You would reach down, grab an arrow, knock it, and by the time you were upright, you were shooting it. It was elven. Like honestly, it looked like something out of a Lord of the Rings movie. It was great.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one of the things that Kern had me practice. And honestly, when I was sitting there just watching TV with my strung bow, clicking and unclicking an arrow, I thought it was the dumbest bloody thing ever, but clearly it served a purpose at the tournament and on the field, and at this point I don't even notice it. But sometimes I will knock 2 arrows. I'll knock one, not paying attention, and then pseudo-consciously knock another, and I'll end up firing 2 arrows, and I've killed 2 people at once doing that too. Which was very unintentional, but it looks cool in that precise moment.
It's like a bow shotgun right there. Just you got a nice spread going out.
Get a nice splatter pattern going.
No, that is cool. Like I said, I really liked it. I'm glad I've told that story a couple of times on the show, and I'm glad that you were here to corroborate it. She's a real person, see, and she did it.
It was combat archery, so it was 1v1, similar to how like a single blue or sword and board tournament would go as well.
Yeah, so it was just you and the other archer with your limited space going around. That was, yeah, it's beautiful. So you received that award. Obviously, you've won a tournament. Has your unit received any awards or anybody else done such things?
We've had several individual unit members win awards for garb. There was a cavalcade mask competition. Our unit mate Rain wire wrapped a cat mask. And it had like beading and jewelry and ears up on it, and it was very gorgeous. We've had several members enter artisan competitions for crafting. We're very crafty. If we're not fighting with something, we're making something to look good while we're fighting in it. And we've had a lot of individual entrances and winners of those competitions. Out here in Dirtamarian, at least, we don't have a whole lot of like unit as a whole winning prizes, except for like unit battles. If we haven't, I don't remember if we've won a unit battle, because most of the unit is working these days.
I think there were 1 or 2 during like the big events that we've won. There's no like trophy or anything for it, because
Right.
There's always like 4 or 5 that you do. But you know, we've taken home a couple.
Which is bragging rights in of themselves.
Yeah. The way I'm used to unit battles is there are 5 rounds of them, so even if you win one, it's not necessarily that you've won like the unit battle, greater battle, but we've won at least one actual unit fight in a 5-round battle.
At our big like Beltane or Equinox event.
Hmm.
Well, right on, right on. That's pretty awesome. And you were mentioning before that you have several squires that are part of the unit as well.
Yes, Davlon is squiring to Sir Jacanta, Tandar is squiring to Sir Devrin, and I'm squiring to Sir Rigtaw. So we have a lot of active squires right now in the unit.
Oh, I love Rigtaw. He was one of the first people that I met when I was there, and he was incredibly friendly. He helped me get to my first Aukfest. He's just the best. I really like Rigtaw, so I'm glad you're kind of squired under him. He's a good role model, as it were. And then Sir Jacanta, I just want to touch on that for a second. I know that I've talked about the story of my first Chaos Wars when I ran up on that archer and tried to get her with my big axe because I thought that I had the advantage, and she grabbed my axe, rolled backwards with her foot on my chest, flung me over her. I hit the deck, knocked the wind out of me. She killed me with my axe and then ran off and killed a bunch of other people with my axe. And that was Sir Jacanta.
She went full berserker on y'all.
She did. She's a hoot.
Oh, she is. Yeah.
She is the treasurer to Durdamarian right now. So we're putting in a lot of work.
Absolutely. I'm glad to hear that she's still active, and I'm assuming that she's still an absolute beast on the field.
She is, yeah. Her heater shield takes a lot of chest shots these days.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So I know that you two are leaders of Vorshen. Are there any other leaders or officials?
We're not really big enough to need officials in a larger sense. If we were more active in other states, I would definitely enact like local leaders. But we're very open to everyone in the unit having a say. Like, we're not doing any kind of king rule. I don't have overall authority of everyone with phenomenal cosmic power or anything like that.
Any little bit living space.
But yeah, everyone has a say, everyone has a vote. If people have ideas that they want to bring to the unit, they are encouraged very strongly to do that. And like I've said, our rules are constantly evolving based on what we thought worked on paper versus what works in reality. And especially as we've expanded with combatants and non-combatants, what is better can always replace what is obsolete. So we're constantly getting information and feedback from our members of what can be improved on, and they'll offer like how to improve it, and that will go to a vote for the entire unit. So they are part of the creation and maintenance process of their family.
So really, just about everybody is a leader and an official at that point.
Yeah. They are responsible for how they act and how they are perceived, and they are responsible for showing how the unit should be depicted. So everyone takes that leadership stance as a representation of what they want to see in a unit in Belegarth.
Well, that's awesome. I really dig that. It's very similar, I think, to the way the Dark Angels, the way we run ourselves. We don't really have any sort of structure. There's no real unit. I mean, like, Shadow is our unofficial. We all like Shadow, and so Shadow, like when Shadow speaks, we all listen. But
Shadow's awesome.
But otherwise, yeah, we don't have any like solid leaders. We just have leaders of the moment. So somebody will be like, okay, we need to get camp set up. I'm the leader for the moment. Y'all get going. And so we do it. And then after camp is set up, they're no longer the leader. So we just do that with a bunch of different things. And I find it works really well. You don't have to have that like kind of rigid command structure that can have holes in it, you know?
Yeah.
We've definitely done that. Like, Aaron, you're in charge of camp. Get them set up. We got to go do like official business.
Yeah. It's really nice to have people in the unit we can trust to step in, especially because so many of us are on the board, to be able to have someone take charge, for that example, of camp and make sure everyone sets up, no one's on top of anyone else. everyone's organized and handling business so that when we come back and can join everyone at the camp, there's not chaos.
Sure.
It's fun time.
Right.
No, that's perfect. I like a well-oiled machine, and the best kind of well-oiled machine is the machine that wants to be there. And so it sounds like you kind of cultivate, like I've used that word a lot, but it's because you really do. You two have put in a lot of effort making Vorshen successful, not to like gratify yourselves or make yourselves seem more grandiose, but to like actually help your unit members.
Yeah, we've wanted to be really encouraging of what people already were when we met them before they joined the unit. So, like people who like to craft, we want to encourage crafting. I love stories and lore, so I encourage people to write their characterization and explain how they got exactly where they are. And I've entered several NaNoWriMo competitions over the past years, and I've challenged unit mates, okay, write 50,000 words about your character, or tell this story but write it down. And NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month that takes place in November, so while the field is hit or miss based on the weather, everyone can sit down and flesh out their characterization. And I really want to encourage the individual to feel like they can shine.
Oh, that's really awesome. Again, I've known a lot of units where the leaders just sort of puff themselves up, where they have somebody carry them around on a throne, or like they are the absolute ruler and whatever they say goes, sort of thing. Now, I mean, I would carry you guys around on a throne just 'cause. You don't have to ask me. I'll just do it. But no, again, it's I love it that, again, leadership to y'all isn't about authority. It's about accomplishing something.
How dare you disrespect my authority? It's really difficult to be, especially being myself a small fighter, to demand respect. That's like, I gotta work that much harder just to earn people's respect. So when I get there, like, I'm holding on to that.
So I just give like the
Sure.
angry dad face if I need to, but
That's
it's usually
terrifying.
not necessary.
Well, again, you've worked in professional kitchens. I'm sure your angry dad face will just peel paint off a wall. Like, that sounds terrifying to me. In terms of the future, what are your plans? I know that COVID has kind of thrown a wrench into a lot of everybody's plans, but in terms of where you want to take the unit or how you want to see it evolve, tell us a bit about that.
We really don't have like a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. What we thought was the plan 5 years ago has distinctly not happened with the unit. Like I said, what we thought would work when we first started and wrote on paper was just not how Belegarth functioned, was not how people functioned. And part of that was because we were new, but part of it was also we didn't have the experience of how things function with such a vast group of different people. And if we're going to encourage differences, we have to be willing to accept that things need to change. So really, it's mostly to continue to succeed. Like, we want a group of people who are happy to be around each other, who want to fight with each other on the field, not like one-on-one.
Behind the Waffle House, just
Yeah, no behind the Waffle House. Fight alongside each other, not fight each other. But we want to have fun, really. Like, we want it to be enjoyable for us and for those we keep around us.
and right now we've been kind of stagnant like in terms of membership.
No, I like that. And it seems very tight-knit.
It is. You'll have to join us for Disney karaoke when you come back.
I would absolutely love that. I absolutely slay Be Prepared. So, yeah, we're gonna get this going. I like that.
Yes.
So one of the other questions I had for you, though, in terms of the future, is are you planning on spreading to different realms? Because from what it sounds like, part of the way that you keep that really tight-knit community is being able to spend a lot of community time together. What would that look like if you were to pick up like solid expansion in other realms?
If we did expand to other realms, we would have to have someone trusted be a leader in there who can not only observe fellow fighters, but also be an active mindset as to how the person would pledge, since we have a very complex pledging process for their trials.
Mm-hmm.
They'd have to know, like, does this person not just mesh well with me, but would they mesh well with the group at large?
Sure.
And, when it goes from a different realm, so like other realms I know have an average size much smaller than Dirtamarian, would they feel comfortable stepping on the field if they came to a group of, say, 10 people they've never met and fight alongside them? So I'd be interested to see how that would look. We just haven't really had the occasion yet or the opportunity to see how that would work in practice.
Back in the day, we did have members in other local realms, so like we'd all go to each other's practices, but we haven't had the opportunity to go like out of state to have like a commander, like someone in charge there to recruit. I'd be interested, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Well, I got to get you guys out here for a Chaos Wars or a Battle for the Ring. You can do some recruiting up here in the Northwest and down in California. They got so many people in California.
California Vorshen. Ooh.
You guys could get some beachfront property there, Hey-oh, be fun. And then you could be on fire with us, right?
Oh, Jeebus.
Well,
But we didn't start the fire.
it was always burning since the world was turning. Listeners, as you can probably see, I really like these guys, and we could probably chat forever. I got really sloppy with my sows because I'm sitting here looking at a screen with two beautiful people on it, and I got to say I get a little nervous. But Arshank, Tandar, guys, it was wonderful to have you on, and I really look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thank you so much for having us. We really missed hanging out with you. This would be really nice when everything settles down that we can hang out again in person.
He's gonna make us go out west. We can do it.
I'm okay with this.
I'll come east too. I'm willing to be reasonable. I can come east as well. So just a little exchange, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, that's our episode for these interviews with Vorshen and Ebonhold. I hope you enjoyed it. And when we come back for next episode, we're going to be discussing the world of Clausewitz. That's our show. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't had enough of the art of wargaming in your life, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, where I occasionally post funny and educational memes. If you want to get in touch with the show directly, you can email us at artofwargamingpodcast@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or concerns that you might have. Also be sure to check out all of our sister shows on the Earworm Network, including General Nerdery, Word Balloons, Fried Squirms, and more. We're working hard on having something for everyone. And again, you can find those at earworm.com. That's EARVVYRM. You can also find that in the show notes. But for now, this has been Yaga Malark, signing off.